Welcome to the Shema Podcast series, The Power of the Hebrew Months with Rabbi Pill. Each month of the Jewish year carries its own unique energy, a spiritual rhythm woven into creation itself. Our sages teach that the months are not just markers of time, but windows of opportunity, each with its own avoda and pathway for growth. In this monthly series, Rabbi Pill and I will guide you into the flow of sacred time. Together, we'll uncover the spiritual work, the inner energy, and the actions you can take to stay in sync with the month. Tools to lift you to new levels of awareness and growth. Think of it as your spiritual workout routine, written into the Torah's calendar. Month by month, we'll train the soul, awaken new strengths, and live more fully in harmony with Hashem's design for time. Join us as we journey through the Hebrew months and discover how to channel the energy of time into lasting, personal transformation. Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of the Shema Podcast and our 12th installment in our series, The Power of the Hebrew Months. This episode is especially meaningful because of that reason. We have completed an entire year together on this subject as we began the series last year with the month of Elul. And since then, Rabbi Shlomo Pill and I have explored the unique spiritual character of each part of the Hebrew calendar, its mazel, its Hebrew letter, its tribe, its bodily sense, the holidays, and the way all those elements appear to express one underlying spiritual movement and what our avoda Hashem is in that month. This learning has been deeply meaningful for me personally. Before beginning this series, I understood the Hebrew months primarily as just names on a calendar and as the setting for the holidays that fell within them. I did not appreciate how much each month could provide a particular kind of spiritual assistance and how the work of one month prepared you for the work of the next month. And, how understanding the character of the month could help me make sense of and prepare me for what I was experiencing in my own life. Over the course of the year, though, that changed. Hopefully it did for you as well. Learning the purpose and role of the month has given me a much stronger framework for growth. It has helped me recognize that different stages of the year call for different forms of avoda. There are times of revelation and times of concealment, times of expansion, times of constriction, times to act, listen, rebuild, times to just strengthen our emunah while growth is hidden and sometimes beneath the surface. I hope this series has helped you in the same way. Our goal was never merely to share, interesting associations about the calendar. It was to help us live more consciously within time itself, to recognize the opportunities that Hashem places before us each month, and to use the rhythm of the year as a practical framework for lasting growth. Although this is the 12th episode, and I'm about to complete a full year, this is not the end of the series. I've been thinking about the second season of The Power of the Hebrew Months and discussed it with Rabbi Pill and ideas on what that may look like. And I think what we have decided, where I'm sort of leaning, is that, this first season we explored how the spiritual energy of each month manifests through all these different attributes, the Hebrew letter, the mazel, the bodily sense, the tribe, the events associated with the period of the year. But for the second season, what I'm thinking about and really leaning towards is just going deeper into one of those expressions, and that is the tribe. Just basically looking at the avoda and just focusing on from the angle of the tribe that corresponds to that month. So instead of treating the tribe as one among several features of the month, we can examine the tribe itself in depth, its founding personality, its strengths and failures, its role within Klei Yisrael over historical events to see how it played out and has developed over generations. So by tracing the tribe through Torah and Jewish history, we may gain an entirely new angle on the spiritual work of that particular month. But before again looking ahead to what we're going to be doing in season 2 of the Power of the Hebrew Months with Rabbi Pill, we still have 1 month to complete. And normally Rabbi Pill is joining us for these discussions. Unfortunately for us, but not for him, his wife planned an unexpected surprise, much needed family vacation. So while I was saddened by the fact that he couldn't join me this morning, I was happy for him and his family to be able to get away and enjoy a nice summer vacation. So this month, the month of Av, we are not merely studying the mazel, the Hebrew letter, the tribe, the bodily sense, and what seemed like two totally opposite holidays as all a bunch of unrelated subjects. The assumption underlying the entire series is that these features all express one spiritual energy from different angles. So our task, like always, is to discover what they are all pointing toward. And how do we take that information, that knowledge, and apply it towards our own life? So as I studied the month of Av, I kept encountering opposites: strength and compassion, judgment and mercy, destruction and rebuilding, physicality and spirituality, war and peace, superficial hearing and internal listening, the holidays of Tisha B'Av and Tu B'Av. The conclusion I reached is that Av is not merely the month of contradiction. Av is the month in which apparent contradictions must be reconciled under one higher purpose, under our avodas Hashem. The month does not ask us to pretend that opposing forces are absent. It asks us to bring them into order. It asks us to hear the unity beneath them. So that is where we need to begin. But in order to understand Av, we have to sort of step back a little bit into our current month that we are wrapping up, Tammuz, and see how one leads into the other. So if you remember in Tammuz, it is a month of rectifying sight. The central question of Tammuz was not simply, what do I see? It was, what meaning do I attach to what I see? It's really, just on a side note, so incredible that this series is just totally like lockstep with the series I'm doing with Rabbi Michael Cohen on Strive for Truth, because the Rav Dessler essays were on this very idea that we just covered last month, and not by design, of course. That's what Rav Dessler was talking about, is how we attach meaning to what we see and how what we see can deceive us. But back to the month at Tammuz, the spies entered the land of Israel and saw funerals taking place wherever they went. So the facts that they reported back to Klei Yisrael were real, but the meaning they assigned to those facts is what was false. Caleb and Yehoshua saw the exact same thing. They just attached different meaning to it. The majority concluded that the land consumed its inhabitants. And Chazal explained that Hashem had arranged those deaths so the local population would be occupied with mourning and would not notice the fact that there were spies in their country. But the spies interpreted it as evidence that Hashem was leading them into disaster. The reality was that Hashem was providing them evidence that he was protecting them. This is the challenge of sight. We do not encounter reality without interpretation. We see something and almost immediately the imagination supplies a story about what it means. Tammuz trains us to see Hashem within creation, not to see only the physical system and not to reject the physical system as meaningless, but to see the divine will expressed through it. Rabbi Pill explained that our sight takes many details and presents them to us as one field of vision, that itself points toward the proper use of sight, recognizing unity within multiplicity. But Av takes the next step. Tammuz asks whether we can see correctly when revelation becomes concealed. Av asks whether we can internalize what we have seen. Tammuz is about perception. Av is about integration. Tammuz asks whether we can see Hashem in the darkness. Av asks whether we can hear what Hashem is saying through the contradiction. That distinction matters because correct perception does not automatically change the person. I may intellectually recognize that Hashem is present, that everything comes from Him, that even painful events have purpose, yet the emotion and physical part of me may continue reacting as though I am abandoned, threatened, or trapped. Av is a month in which the truth has to move deeper. This is the movement from Tammuz into Av. Tammuz teaches us not to misread what we see. Av teaches us that when the old form disappears, we must learn to hear the hidden process continuing beneath the surface. I read a great essay from Rabbi Joy Rosenfeld over Shabbos that provides some further insights into the month of Av. There's a piece he wrote called The Light of the Baal Shem Tov, From Revelation to Concealment and Back Again. And the image he uses is a seed beneath the ground. From the outside, the seed appears to disintegrate. So if we judged only by appearance, we would call the process destruction. Yet that very breakdown is the beginning of growth. The old form must dissolve before the life hidden inside it can emerge. This really changed for me the meaning and understanding of spiritual concealment. The disappearance of a familiar feeling is not always regression. The collapse of a familiar structure is not always mean abandonment. Sometimes the light has gone inward. Sometimes what appears empty is the place where the next stage is quietly taking shape. Rabbi Rosenfeld describes this process as one form is removed so that another form can be assumed. Every revelation needs a garment through which it can become accessible, but no single garment can contain the fullness of divine light forever. So at a certain point, the old form must fall away so that a more expansive form can begin to develop. And the Baal Shem Tov teaches a different pattern. Revelation gives way to concealment, not necessarily because the light has disappeared, but because the first form of revelation has completed its work. The light withdraws beneath the surface so that it can eventually emerge in a deeper, more enduring form. We naturally think revelation and concealment are opposites. This is something Rabbi Pill spoke about and gave us some new insights on last month and over the course of last year, that concealment is just another form of revelation, or in actuality, one of the clearest forms of revelation of Hashem. But when inspiration is strong, Hashem feels close. Holiness becomes visible, and that's what we naturally call revelation. But when that feeling disappears, when the clarity fades, or when the structures that carried our spiritual life fall away, we assume the light has been lost, that we have been abandoned by Hashem. Sefer Yetzirah associates the month of Av with the sense of hearing. That immediately raises a question. Why hearing? What does hearing accomplish that sight does not? When you think of sight, sight is immediate. We open our eyes and take an entire scene at once. Hearing, however, unfolds over time. A sentence has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So if we stop listening halfway through, we may completely misunderstand what was being said to us. Music works the same way. A single note is not a melody. Meaning emerges only when different notes are held together in sequence. Hearing, therefore, requires patience and time. It requires receiving one part without yet knowing how it will connect to the next. It requires withholding judgment until the message has fully unfolded. This is already a powerful lesson for Av. And you can probably now see how it ties into our relationship with Hashem and our avodah Hashem, because we often judge our lives in the middle of the sentence. We experience one painful event, one closed door, one loss, one period of confusion, and we decide we know what the whole story means. But we've only heard one word. Hashem hasn't finished the sentence. Rabbi Reisman, who I've been pulling a lot of content from this series, who wrote the books, The Wisdom in the Hebrew Months, distinguishes between two levels of hearing. There is an external hearing, in which sound enters the ear, and internal hearing, in which the message enters the heart. And this may be why our declaration that we say every morning and every night, the Shema, why we begin that declaration with that word. And the reason is also why I chose to name this podcast the Shema Podcast. When we say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, we often translate Shema as hear, but it means far more than just allowing sound waves to enter the ear. It means listen, understand, receive, internalize, and change. The Shema does not merely tell us that Hashem is one. It commands us to hear that unity until it changes how we interpret everything else. We hear the two different divine names, which have associations of two different modes of interaction. We experience mercy and judgment, revelation and concealment, expansion and restriction, and they can often feel like opposing forces. But the Shema tells us to hear beneath their apparent difference and that they are one. This is the idea of Av. It does not mean that both experiences feel the same. It does not mean that judgment feels like kindness or that pain should be relabeled as pleasure. It means that behind everything we experience stands one Hashem, one will, and one purpose. This is the deep work of Av, to hear unity where the surface presents contradiction. And what's special about this month is that the name of the month itself points towards the very idea and our understanding of the month, as Av means father, which seems shocking considering Av is the month when the temples were destroyed, in a month that's associated with exile, national tragedy, mourning, and severe judgment. And yet we call this month Father. But if we think about it, a father contains both compassion and discipline. A healthy parent does not express love only by giving a child whatever the child wants. Sometimes love provides, sometimes love restrains. Sometimes love comforts, sometimes love corrects. We know this with our relationships with our own fathers and as being a father. The child may not experience all those actions the same way, but they come from the same relationship. The name Av, therefore, teaches that divine judgment is not abandonment. Tisha B'Av is not evidence that Hashem ceased being our Father. It is a painful event within an enduring relationship. That does not answer every question about suffering. Torah does not ask us to explain every tragedy as though we possess Hashem's full perspective, but it does ask us not to interpret pain as proof that the relationship has ended. This matters to us personally. When something is difficult, the imagination quickly moves from, I am experiencing something painful, to Hashem has rejected me. Av is here to interrupt that false conclusion because the month is called Father. Let's look at the mazel of Av, the Areh, the lion. The lion is described as the king of the animals. It represents authority, strength, judgment, and royalty. But Rabbi Reisman's central point is that the lion is not one-dimensional. Its strength can appear as destruction, but also as protection. Its severity can coexist with compassion. Its power can be controlled or can be restrained and redirected. So that same force, that same strength can produce opposite results depending upon what governs it. Strength is not automatically holy, but neither is it automatically corrupt. The question is not simply whether a person possesses strength. The question is what the strength serves. He contrasts figures such as David and Goliath. Both possess strength, but the same broad quality is directed toward completely different purposes. One uses power in the service of Hashem. The other uses power for self-glorification and opposition. The same applies to many middos. Anger can become cruelty or it can become moral seriousness. Envy can become resentment or it can become the desire to grow after seeing the accomplishments of others. Intensity can become violence or can become devotion. Authority can become domination or it can become responsible leadership. The line has the capacity to destroy, yet strength reaches its highest expression through restraint. Power that cannot govern itself is not true kingship. It is slavery to impulse. The lion, therefore, becomes an image of the person of ask us to become. Not weak, not passive, not stripped of emotion, ambition, intensity, or desire. Rather, the goal is not to remove our individual unique powers, but to place those powers under Hashem. The lion also appears in the sources as a symbol connected to the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash and to its future rebuilding. So the same image associated with the destruction is also associated with the restoration. This teaches that the destruction of the temple is not outside Hashem's ultimate purpose, as the story does not end with the ruins. We don't want to, again, interrupt Hashem before he has completed his sentence. His sentence completes itself with the rebuilding of the temple. That is why the first part of the month is about mourning, and the second part of the month changes character totally and becomes a month of joy. Let's now look at the letter of the month, which is Tes. So as Rabbi Pill has taught us, if we want to understand what the letter signifies, we look to the first time it is used in the written Torah. And the first time the letter Tes is used is in Bereshis, where it says, and Hashem saw the light, that it was Tov, good. The letter, therefore, carries an association with goodness. But if you look at the shape of a Tes, it suggests something enclosed or hidden. It looks like a vessel with the lips covering the lid, covering the opening, covering the goodness that is inside. And that fits Av perfectly. Av is not obvious good. Av is about hidden good. It's good concealed within events that may appear painful, fractured, or impure. We're not supposed to announce that everything feels good when it doesn't. But the work here, the avoda, is to trust that Hashem's purpose is not exhausted by what we presently see. We look at the tribe of the month, it is Shimon, who is a tribe of intensity. Shimon and Levi respond to their sister Dinah being violated by totally destroying Shechem. Yaakov condemns the way their anger and power were used. Their strength was real, and the outrage behind it was not imaginary, but the force became destructive because it was not properly governed. Yet that is not the end of Shimon's story. Rabbi Reisman notes the descents of Shimon are also associated with teaching Torah to children. So the same intensity that can erupt as violence can be redirected into education, transmission of Torah, and devotion to the next generation. So another practical teaching of the month of Av is about transformation. Because we can often imagine that our own growth is about becoming a different person. This is a grave error. Hashem did not give us mistakenly the wrong personality, the wrong traits. And now Hashem is asking us to replace those traits. That is not the case. We're not supposed to replace those character traits. We're supposed to redirect them, like Shimon, redirecting the intensity that at one point led to violence and then was redirected into maintaining the chain of Torah wisdom from generation to generation. I've heard the following idea as well from Rabbi Yokov Wolbe. I don't recall his source, but I remember learning from him that whatever midah that you have, whatever character trait you have that is the one you struggle with the most, that's your superpower. You just have to redirect it. Once you redirect it, you have tapped into the greatest strength that will allow you to accomplish all your goals and your reason for being in this world. And then if you look at this whole idea of the dual character of Av, we have Tisha B'Av, which of course is a national day of mourning. We fast, we reflect on the loss of the Beis HaMikdash and all the other tragedies that have occurred through exile. But then only 6 days later comes Tu B'Av, which the Mishnah describes as one of the greatest days of joy for the Jewish people. So how can the lowest day and one of the most joyful days belong to the same month? The simple answer is that sadness eventually gives way to joy. The deeper meaning is that rebuilding, consolation grows from the brokenness. Concealment is therefore not simply the opposite of revelation. It can be the womb in which the next revelation is quietly taking shape. This is why Chazal teach that Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. Redemption does not merely arrive after destruction. Its hidden beginning is already present within the moment of destruction. The old garment falls away, and at the same moment, the new garment begins to form. What appears to be the end of revelation was therefore the beginning of a new and more inward form. The Beis HaMikdash ceased to stand visibly in Jerusalem, but the divine presence continued to sustain Klei Yisrael through exile. The Baal Shem Tov's teaching from Rabbi Rosenfeld takes us further. The destruction of the temple was not, heaven forbid, Hashem abandoning the world. It was a profound change in the form of his revelation. The Beis HaMikdash had been the place where holiness could be seen and felt openly. When that structure was destroyed, the Shekinah did not disappear. The light withdrew into the hidden depths of creation. Our nation was wounded, but not destroyed. The Beis HaMikdash was lost, but the relationship remained. Exile began, but exile was never the final destination. The root of Tu B'Av is therefore already present within Tisha B'Av. This is what Av is all about. Not ignoring the mourning, not remaining trapped within the mourning, but hearing the future consolation already being spoken from inside the present pain. So let's now step back and look at the pattern. As we said, the name Av means father, which has two relationships with a child, discipline and compassion. The mazel is the lion, which has both strength and restraint, so it can engage in destruction but also protection of its young. The letter Tes first appears in the Torah in the word tov, good, while its enclosed shape suggests that the good may remain hidden within it. The tribe of Shimon points to intensity that can either destroy or teach. The sense of hearing points to superficial reception or truly internalizing truth. And Tisha B'Av and Tu B'Av place mourning and joy within 1 month. These are not separate lessons. They are one lesson expressed through many forms. The idea here is that all these contradictions can be reconciled under our Avodah Hashem. And the idea from Rabbi Rosenfeld that I think adds an additional dimension, that contradictions are not merely held side by side. Revelation itself may withdraw into concealment so that deeper revelation can be born. The destruction is real, but it's not empty. It's only halfway through the sentence. The hiddenness is painful, but it is not absence. So what does all this mean practically? First, we should consider the contradictions that we may see presently in our life. Perhaps you know that Hashem loves you, but you feel abandoned right now. Perhaps you are both grateful for what you have, but frightened about what is missing. Perhaps you love someone and are angry with them right now. Perhaps you want to serve Hashem, but you feel exhausted. Perhaps you are mourning something, but also recognizing and excited about new possibilities. I think the idea here is not to try to resolve the contradiction by denying one side, but by bringing both sides into honest awareness and ask what each force is presently serving. Is your strength serving responsibility or control? Is your anger serving truth or ego? Is your ambition serving Hashem or the need for status? Is your sadness deepening longing or is becoming resignation? Is your physical life becoming a vessel for growth or is it becoming the center of everything? The other thing is when we say Shema, to not merely recite those words, but ask what they are requiring of us. They're asking us, we do this twice a day, to hold this contradiction. Can we remember that the Hashem that we experience through kindness and the Hashem we experience through concealment are one? And can we withhold the final judgment on our lives until the sentence that Hashem is saying to us about our life fully unfolds? I think that's such a profound idea. Can we let Hashem finish speaking? Can we let Hashem finish allowing history to unfold before we pass judgment on our lives and on our history as a Jewish people? Another idea I want to emphasize, because it was profound to me, is changes how we interpret periods of spiritual dryness. When the excitement of learning fades, when tefillah no longer feels alive, or when the closeness we once felt seems absent, we should not immediately conclude that everything has been lost, that we, God forbid, have been abandoned. What the Baal Shem Tov is teaching us is that the light may have withdrawn, but into a deeper place, where it is becoming less dependent upon emotion and more capable of enduring. So perhaps Av is not asking us to understand why every painful event had to occur. Perhaps Av is asking us something more immediate, more demanding, and that is, can we remain inside the relationship when we cannot reconcile everything intellectually? Can we hear beneath the contradiction? Can we believe that compassion has not disappeared simply because compassion is temporarily wearing the clothing of judgment? Av is the month of mourning, but is also called Father. Perhaps as the deepest hope of Av, not that we deny the times of concealment in our lives and over our history, but that we learn to recognize it is a place where Hashem may already be preparing the next form, the greater form of revelation. I appreciate you guys going on this journey with me for the last year. And I'm looking forward to continuing it over the year to come as well.
Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed the episode and found it meaningful, please take a moment to rate, review, and share the podcast.